Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending our Dashboard Dive series, and we're going to go over where your members borrow today. Your instructors for today are Sarah, Ashby, and Thomas Hull. We expect this class to last about 30 minutes. As you joined us today, all phones are placed on mute to eliminate background noise and interruptions. To facilitate answering questions you have during the broadcast, we use the chat feature. You can find the chat feature by hovering over the bottom of the presentation screen. You should then see the toolbar with a series of icons. Click the one that says chat, then select to presenter and type your question. Questions may be sent at any time, and we'll be stopping throughout the presentation to answer these questions. We appreciate your attendance today. With that, I'll turn it over to Sarah and Thomas to get started. Enjoy the presentation.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us this afternoon as we talk to you about the Where Your Members Borrow dashboard. As you can see on the screen, we have a whole Where Your Members series going on with our dashboards.
We do.
Yeah, so thankfully Thomas reminded me to bring that up. So there's a couple of other ones that are on here. Another one that's kind of similar but uses a different set of data is that Where Your Members Shop.
Yep, and Where Your Members Shop is going to be our topic next week, actually. So this is a mini series we're going to run on these Where Your Member tools that we have within CU Base. We're starting with Where Your Members Borrow today, which is credit report trade line data mining. And next week we're going to dive into tool 979, looking at where your members are spending their money through different channels. We can look at debit cards, ACH, ATM activity, a lot of value in, and all of these tools definitely encourage you to poke around when you have a couple free minutes.
But not now. Just kidding. Go ahead and follow along if you want. Anyway, so the tool, like Thomas said, that we're focusing on today is this Where Your Members Borrow dashboard that looks like at that credit report trade line data. So I'm actually just going to jump right into it right now.
Yep.
Just like the title of it suggests and like our description suggests is if you don't have a credit report on file for these members, you're not going to be, for certain members at your credit union, you won't find that information here. So just kind of a small disclaimer before we dive too deep, this dashboard presents so much opportunity and it is absolutely wonderful, but it is not all the opportunity that may be hiding out in your members. So anyway, like I always say, I like to start out with the bare minimum amount of work you have to do to get data to appear on a screen in a dashboard. This dashboard is fairly straightforward and simple, but you might have seen some of our dashboards where there's anywhere from 10 to 20 different filtering options at the very top of the screen, and that can be a little bit overwhelming. Like a lot of our dashboards, the number one thing that you have to do to get started is just select a date filter. Is there a specific window of time that you would recommend when using this dashboard, Thomas?
Yeah, well, the first thing you want to be aware of is, how long do we retain that trade line data from your full credit pulls? And there's a couple of aspects in there that I'm going to talk about. But the punchline there, the answer is 90 days. So when we do a full credit pull on a member, that trade line detail information is retained within CU Base for a 90-day period. So we can go back up to those 3 months, and we can look at all of the full credit reports you pulled and look at all of those active trade lines that came over with that full credit pull. I'm really trying to emphasize that word full there for anyone that does quarterly soft pulls or any other type of score-only credit pulls. You're not going to get the trade line detailed information in those pulls. So we're exclusively looking at full credit pulls only, which occurred within the longest amount of time is going to be that 90-day window that we have.
So it's almost pretty safe to assume that the majority of the members' information that you'll find in here, those members have already applied for a loan in that window of time then.
Yeah, the answer will vary by credit union. Many credit unions will pull credit during account opening, or there might be certain events that you have, as part of your train schedule that we like to talk about so much during these sessions. But yeah, so you'll have to ask yourself, when am I doing full credit pulls? And then that will be your answer. But yeah, I think for most, it's they've recently applied for a loan.
Yep. All right, so we are working with a test credit union today. So we're going to break our own rule that we just talked about there for a couple of minutes and go really far back in time here. So we wouldn't do this in a real credit union, obviously, because then the data could be pretty stale.
Exactly.
And not commonly done in this dashboard, I'm going to leave this credit scores window wide open. But for those of you who work in marketing or lending and you kind of have an idea of your risk-based pricing and what you would really want to look for, who you would want to aim to contact or focus on, this is where you would make that filter on the dashboard. I'm just going to go ahead and hit enter. So as soon as I select the dates and I hit enter, data appears on the screen. It's that simple and straightforward, and I'm so grateful for it. But before we get really into the data that's showing up, just covering also that you do have a few other filtering options. So we have the ability to look at members as of right now, or those who are non-members. So this could mean that they either had a membership right and are no longer, as long as they had that report data in that time window, or they applied for a loan and never joined, or applied for membership and never joined, however that got there.
The audience there that I would really focus on would be co-signers, or the additional signers on the loans. So if you're pulling credit on both the primary and the secondary signer, and the secondary is a non-member, there might be a whole wealth of opportunity that we can capture in those non-member co-signers.
Excellent. All right, now this next filter directly affects actually this column right here. So we'll kind of transition into the last filter that's really going to be applied here, along with what fields we're actually looking at here in this dashboard. So these loan types, pretty self-explanatory. We're looking for these specific trade lines in the data. So if you're trying to focus on recapturing auto loans or mortgages or any type of installment, whatever it is that your focus is right now, you can actually narrow down by that in this dashboard. You don't have to look at all potential outside loans. So just letting you know that that option's there. And if we were to filter by any one of these, I'll just click on one. It doesn't automatically do it. You still have to hit enter to make the change. But we'll see right here, this type column automatically shows only the I for installment. I'm going to go back to all loans just because we have more of a wealth of data to look at. So as you can see, there's this thick, dark orange underline. For those of you that watch our dashboard dives, you probably already know what I'm about to talk about. But for those of you that do not, you can actually sort by any of these columns. It is clickable. So if I go ahead and I want to see the highest number of outside loans with a specific creditor, I can go ahead and click on that column heading, and it will automatically sort that for me. Probably more important to you, though, is how much is currently owed as of the date that their credit was pulled. So if I click on that present balance, automatically I get the highest present balance with another creditor. Bumped right up to the top, and no surprise, it's just one, and it's for a mortgage for that amount. So you want to talk a little bit more about maybe
it's probably pretty apparent to everyone. Our vision here is, what is a good way to find some outside financial institutions that our members are doing business with, and let's try to capture that opportunity. So this dashboard was definitely designed with that workflow in mind of, let's find the Capital Ones, the Chase Autos. You've got a GM Financial is going to be a common one that a lot of people see. Different department credit cards and so forth. This tool is really great at finding those existing trade lines, making it easy to export all this data to file. We can see each row has its own export button. So if you find a specific creditor that you want to target, maybe try to bring some of that loan balance in-house, we can hit that export button, and immediately we're going to have the option to produce that list of account bases. We can, bring it into Member Connect. We can bring it into Query. We can append their email address, and very quickly we're marketing to these folks and trying to capture some of those loan balances.
Nice.
We can even, there's some credit unions that will actually make calls directly off this dashboard. The little look-up glass all the way to the left there will actually give you member data. Again, this is sample data. We really don't have much to show you here, but you can see we put the member's phone number right on the screen. So you could very easily develop a workflow, or once a month you're pulling this up and you're actually making phone calls and you're trying to capture this directly from the dashboard. I think it's a very universal tool. There is the ability to, there's like a show detail type of button down in the bottom, show hide email address, and that will expand it out. And if that member has an email address, it'll be displayed there as well. So, again, we're just trying to give you all of the tools and resources that you need to quickly and efficiently find some outside lending opportunity and streamline the process of trying to capture that and bring it in-house.
Nice. Now, what happens if I try to dive deeper on the specific member? Do I just get credit report information for them?
Ooh, let's take a look.
Yes.
See, yeah.
So you can see all of their trade line data that has been pulled, along with, where was it that I was just looking at? Well, you can see the current balances versus their original balances, which kind of gives you an idea of what's what their payment is, how often, and their estimated rates that they're currently financed at elsewhere.
Yep. And that rate, especially on mortgages, we want to be a little bit careful there. Because what we do is, CU-Base is estimating that rate. What we get as part of the trade line details from the Bureau is going to be the current balance, the original balance, the payment, payment frequency. And so we actually, use a formula and we try to estimate what that interest rate or APR is. And so you have to be careful on products that have, like a escrow portion or a insurance portion, a auto where, I think this is rare, but auto loan where the insurance premium might be baked into the payment. Same concept with a mortgage escrow. That is certainly going to inflate the interest rate because the system is not able to back out those interest or non-P&I payments. But the calculation is quite accurate if it's solely a P&I type loan and you don't have those additional coverages. You can get a pretty accurate idea of what that interest rate is.
All right, thanks, Thomas. This is definitely helpful. All right, we're going to go back up to our main screen here. As you can see, there were quite a few that you could navigate through just thanks to that spyglass down there. But our original screen here has quite a bit of information on it too. So we'll just kind of talk about the buttons in blue at the bottom here for a minute, and then we'll look at maybe some of these other tabs that we have available. So you are actually able, this credit report mining, that's another dashboard, right?
That is,
Yep, so we can actually dive into another dashboard from this dashboard, which sounds a little crazy, but there is a good reason for doing that. If you're noticing that while you're looking in this menu screen right now, it's one of your first times in here, you might see your own credit union name in here quite a bit. And say you just don't care about where your credit union is at on the list, you just want to look for those outside opportunities. There is a screen that shows us view exclusions. Now I'm in a test credit union. It's pretty rare that I see no exclusions when I'm looking at this dashboard in a live credit union. But a lot of times I'll see credit unions exclude themselves. Or like common student loan companies and things like that, just depending on what you're looking for. So the way to actually add yourself to this exclusions list, if you're not already on there, is to dive into this dashboard. It's pretty quick. And you'd have to pull up some information here, obviously, but then you would actually be able to click on, once you find that creditor name over here, there's the column I'm looking for, you would find yourself in that creditor name list, and there's a button to, right here, it's exclude creditor. And it would add you to that exclusions list, and then you can jump right back over to where your members borrow.
That's pretty cool. So the same exclusion list impacts both dashboards.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yep.
Good to know.
And that you can only edit it from another dashboard. So it sounds a little crazy, and if you try to do this on your own and you get stuck at all, definitely give our team a call. Or send us an email. I'd be happy to kind of just send you the little step-by-step so you don't get lost anywhere while you're working on this. But notice that when I jump to that credit report mining dashboard to add someone to, just to look at it, or add someone to that exclusions list for the creditor names, it brought me right back to where I was working at on the Where Your Members Borrow dashboard. I didn't have to re-enter in all of my filters or figure out where I was at. It brings me back to right where I was, which I so appreciate, because if you've ever accidentally exited out of a tool, you were really deep into it, you feel that pain. So there's also this option to export all. So say we were looking at, for instance, something that I would see happen quite often is if you're looking at all installment autos that are elsewhere, you've already excluded your own creditor name, you could export everything everyone on the screen without having to do this individual by creditor.
Yeah, but there is a pretty big difference. So that export all option, you're going to get the level of detail that is on the screen. So it's not member level detail. It's not going to be a list of every single member's account base. It's going to be by creditor. So it's going to be these 5 columns that you see on the screen, the creditor name, the type. Did they change it?
Yeah,
well,
you
maybe
can get account numbers out of it.
Last time I clicked that button, you just get the creditor information.
Well.
So we need to do some more testing there.
But that option is available.
The option is available.
So the Ask, See, Act, Profit model that we have behind all of our dashboards here as well, once you've exported to a file and created your little file name with account numbers here, this file name you can immediately plug into the Member Connect option here and go ahead and send a message out to those members. Member Connect is kind of its own beast. It's a really nice tool and allows you to connect with your members, just as the title would suggest. But there's a lot of different ways to do that. So the one we most commonly see when you're using this dashboard is this online and/or online banking and or email message option where you can actually send them an email or an online banking message right away, or you can actually generate sales trackers if your credit union is using them, and immediately get those calls going if you're keeping track of those efforts in CU base.
So again, this is really just streamlining that process of looking at data and then reaching out to those members.
Yep.
We're trying to remove as many barriers as possible.
Yep, that ACT method is built right in. If you are query nerds like us, data nerds, there is this data source button down here. And this is mainly for those of you out there who like to dive a little bit deeper, work with the data hands-on outside of the dashboard. Apply your own special filters to it, play around with it, really develop that deeper understanding. So this would show you, obviously, to those of you who don't use query, this looks like Greek, and that's okay. But we have the file names here and then the fields that we work with in this dashboard. So it's really easy for you to find where we pulled the information from and how we used it. Okay.
Web version.
I don't.
So this web version button, this might be new. If you haven't looked at this in the past, let's see, 30-some days, that's going to be a new button to you. That was released on February 25th as part of our 1902 release. And this is part of a new initiative that we have of getting some of these dashboards into a web environment. Many of you might be familiar with our web tool analytics booth. And we have found ways to kind of tie CU base and analytics booth together via these web version buttons. It is only going to be accessible to a credit union who are subscribed to analytics booth.
Yep.
And actually, this is a coming soon dashboard. This is not live as of yet today. It's something we're still in development and we are working on. But there are a couple web version buttons that are live today. I know Tool 595, the portfolio analysis loans dashboard, does have an active web version. So when you see them, definitely click them. You're either going to get a coming soon message, or you're going to get the web version of that dashboard, and you'll have some new functionality, some new graphing capabilities, really cool stuff. I'm excited to watch more and more of these dashboards develop. This one, unfortunately, is not quite ready yet.
Nope, not just yet, but soon. If you'd like to export the data on the screen, we have these common export options up here again as well. And it looks like some of my other tabs disappeared. I am actually just going to see if I can't click in. Oh, yep, get them to reappear. That's the trick, in case you're wondering. But these other tabs here also provide our VAT options, or visual analytical tools, as we like to call them. So we have some graphs here for you to work with. And just kind of, if you're working in this dashboard on a quarterly basis, like a lot of our credit unions are doing, you kind of track your efforts every time, maybe see how much you're stealing from those external financial institutions or borrowing institutions that are available out there. So we have number of loans, original balances, and most importantly to a lot of us, those present balances. All right. Anything else on here that you really want to cover?
I was going to say, you know, the data that we have is pretty thin. We just have the two credit pulls, so we don't have a whole lot of trade lines, but hopefully you're able to follow along live and you can look into what some of your own opportunity is. A great tool for answering, you know, maybe it's just a simple question of who are my competitors? You know, what other financial institutions are doing business with my members? So just a curiosity question right down to marketing and execution. This dashboard certainly has plenty of value to offer.
There is one more thing I want to cover before we let you go today. Just one more piece of this dashboard, and it's probably the only clickable thing on here we haven't shown you yet. It's this Common Bonds tool. I probably won't do a whole lot with it since we have, like, what, 2 members in here? There's 2 fake members in here. But when you're a live credit union, one of the things that you're worried about when you're working with this, if you're not doing it in-house, you're hiring someone else, or you're planning to do mailing, anything along those lines, you have something like a budget that you have to stick to and work with. And sometimes knowing who to eliminate is kind of important. You know, you want to take every opportunity that is presented to you, but sometimes you just don't have it in the budget to do so, or you're just curious and you're an analytical mind, like those of us here in this room today, and you just want to know, you know, what do these members have in common? Who are the outliers here? You can click this Common Bonds tool, which is available in a lot of our dashboards. And you can look at what these members have in common by their account composition, their membership traits, so things like age, I think it has like an individual versus organizational account breakdown, or zip codes of where they live. That sort of information, you can find those comparisons in here, as well as, I mean, obviously credit history trends we're already kind of looking at here. And then tiered service analysis. Now, a lot of our credit unions get turned off by that name, but something that I like to cover every time I do these, there's a self-service page in this tiered service analysis common bonds piece on a lot of our dashboards. And you can actually see how many of these members have an email address on file with your credit union or not. So you can see how many of these members could be contacted right now. It even shows opt-in or opt-out rates for your credit union as well. It shows these members versus everyone. So it's that's a really important thing I like to cover when looking at this. Don't let the name turn you away. There's usually some good information there. All right, I think that about wraps it up for us. We've covered this dashboard pretty much inside and out. There's a lot here and a lot to work with. And if you have questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to help you.
Yeah, and definitely join us next week. If you liked this content, next week is going to be more of the same, more marketing opportunities, more ways to find outside financial institutions. So definitely join us next week, and we'll continue this conversation.
Awesome. Thanks, Thomas, and thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I hope you all have a great weekend.